Every time you rebuild, I'll be there to tear it down.
My phone buzzed against the concrete floor of my garage. 2:30 a.m. Nobody calls with good news at 2:30 a.m. I'm at John's house. Come pick me up or we're done. I stared at the screen, my wife Sarah's words glowing like a neon sign advertising my humiliation. 22 years of marriage, and this is how it ends? A text message demanding I play chauffeur to her affair? My fingers moved across the screen before my brain could stop them. We're done then, but I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. I screenshot her location, still pinging from John's house on Maple Street. My best friend John, the guy who'd been my best man, who'd helped me build this very garage, who'd shared 1,000 beers and twice as many laughs. That John. Without hesitation, I forwarded the screenshot to his pregnant wife, Amanda, along with Sarah's original message. If Sarah wanted to play games at 2:30 a.m., everyone could play. The autumn air bit through my work shirt as I stepped outside. Our neighborhood looked peaceful, porch lights casting yellow pools on empty sidewalks. Mrs. Henderson's dog was barking 3 houses down, probably saw a raccoon. Normal people were sleeping. Normal people weren't watching their lives explode via text message. I climbed into my pickup truck, a 2018 Ford that I'd rebuilt from the frame up. The engine purred like a satisfied cat as I drove through the empty streets toward Maple Street. Not to pick up Sarah. Heck no. I wanted to see the fireworks. John's house sat in what the real estate agents called the rising part of town. New construction, manicured lawns, the kind of place where people pretended their crap didn't stink. His porch light was on, and through the front window I could see movement. Lots of movement. I parked across the street, ended the engine, and settled in to watch the show. Amanda's voice carried across the quiet street before I saw her. She was standing in the doorway, her 6 months pregnant belly silhouetted against the light, hurling what looked like John's clothes onto the front lawn. A pair of jeans hit his BMW's windshield with a satisfying thud. 23 years, John. 23 miserable years. And you throw it away for that lawyer witch? John appeared in the doorway, hands raised in the universal gesture of a man who knew he was screwed. Even from across the street, I could see the panic on his face. Good. Panic looked good on him. Amanda, please, let me explain. Explain what? How you've been screwing my friend's wife? How you've been lying to me while I'm carrying your baby? She threw a shoe that caught him square in the chest. I got the screenshots, you bastard! I know everything! Sarah emerged from behind John, her hair disheveled, her blouse buttoned wrong. She looked exactly like what she was, a woman caught in the act. The sight of her standing there, in my best friend's doorway, hit me like a sledgehammer to the gut. But the pain was already transforming into something else. Something colder. Something that tasted like revenge. I pulled out my phone and started recording. If they wanted to put on a show, I'd make sure it had an audience. Amanda spotted Sarah, and the volume went up another notch. And you sanctimonious witch, how could you do this to Dave? He trusted you. He trusted both of you. Sarah tried to step forward, her lawyer instincts kicking in. Amanda, if we could just talk about this rationally. Rationally? Amanda's laugh was sharp enough to cut glass. You want rational? Here's rational. She grabbed John's golf clubs from beside the door and started swinging at his BMW. The first blow spiderwebbed the rear window. The second took out a headlight. John lunged forward to stop her, but Sarah grabbed his arm. Smart move. A pregnant woman with a 9-iron was not someone you wanted to tackle. I was grinning now, actually grinning as I filmed Amanda's systematic destruction of John's precious car. Each swing was a symphony, each crash of glass a standing ovation. This was better than cable. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Dave, please come get me. This is insane. I typed back. Try your mother's trailer. I hear it's lovely this time of year. The show continued for another 10 minutes. Amanda ran out of steam around the time she ran out of windows to break. John stood there like a scarecrow, afraid to move, afraid to speak, afraid to do anything that might make it worse. Finally, Amanda threw the golf club at his feet and went back inside, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. John and Sarah were left standing on the lawn, surrounded by clothes and broken glass, looking like the cheating pieces of garbage they were. I started my truck and drove home, whistling. Tomorrow, this whole town would know what happened tonight. Amanda wasn't the type to keep secrets, and neither were her friends. By sunrise, everyone would know that Dave Morrison's wife was screwing his best friend. But that was just the opening act. The real show was about to begin. Back in my garage, I cracked open a beer and sat at my favorite chair, an old recliner that Sarah had been trying to get me to throw away for years. Looked like she wouldn't be nagging me about it anymore. My phone buzzed constantly over the next hour. Sarah begging me to pick her up. John trying to explain. My daughter Katie asking what was happening because her friends were already posting about it on social media. I ignored them all. Instead, I opened Facebook and watched Amanda's post go live. Some people think friendship and marriage vows are just suggestions. Screenshots don't lie, neither do broken hearts. She'd posted everything. The texts, the photos I'd sent her, even a video of Sarah leaving John's house at 3 a.m. Within minutes, the comments started rolling in. The town gossips were having Christmas morning and Easter Sunday all rolled into one. By 4 a.m., the post had 57 shares and over 200 comments. By dawn, everyone in town would know that Sarah Morrison, the hotshot lawyer who acted like she was better than everyone else, was nothing but a cheating hoe. The word felt good in my mind. Harsh, but accurate. She'd made her choice. Now she could live with the consequences. I woke up at 6 a.m. to the sound of someone pounding on my front door. Through the bedroom window, I could see Sarah's car in the driveway. She'd found a ride after all. "Dave, open this door. We need to talk." I took my time getting dressed, brushing my teeth, even making coffee. Let her wait. Let her think about what she'd done while standing on the porch like a door-to-door salesman nobody wanted to see. When I finally opened the door, she looked like heck. Her makeup was smeared, her clothes wrinkled, and her eyes were red from crying. Good. She should look like heck. "You bastard," she said, pushing past me into the house. "How could you send those screenshots to Amanda? How could you destroy 2 families like that?" I sipped my coffee and stared at her. "I destroyed 2 families? That's interesting. Here I thought you were the one screwing my best friend." "It's not that simple, Dave. You don't understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly. You've been sleeping with John behind my back, probably for months, maybe years. And when you got caught, you had the nerve to text me for a ride like I'm your personal Uber driver." She flinched at the word sleeping with, but I was just getting started. "You want to know what I don't understand, Sarah? I don't understand how you could look me in the eye every morning, kiss me goodbye, and then spread your legs for my best friend. I don't understand how you could sit at our dinner table talking about your day while you were planning your next hookup. That's what I don't understand." Tears started flowing down her cheeks, but I felt nothing. The woman I'd loved for 22 years was gone. This crying stranger was someone else entirely. "Dave, please, it just happened. We never meant for it to go this far." "How far, Sarah? How far did it go? His bed, his couch, the backseat of his car. Give me details. I want to know exactly how my wife became the town hoe." She slapped me, hard. The crack echoed through the kitchen like a thunderclap. I smiled. "Feel better? Because that's the last time you'll ever hit me. Touch me again, and I'll have you arrested for assault." "You've lost your mind," she whispered. "This isn't you. You're not this cruel." "You're right. The old Dave would have forgiven you. The old Dave would have begged you to come home and work things out. But the old Dave died at 2:30 this morning when his hoe wife texted him from her lover's house. I'm the new Dave, and the new Dave doesn't take crap from anyone." My phone rang. John's name flashed on the screen. Well, speak of the devil," I answered on speaker. "Morning, John. How's the car?" "Dave, we need to talk, man to man. This has gotten out of hand." "Has it? Because from where I'm sitting, everything's going exactly according to plan." "Look, I know you're angry." "Angry?" I laughed, and even I could hear how cold it sounded. "John, angry is what I get when someone cuts me off in traffic. Angry is what I feel when the Bears blow a 20-point lead. This isn't angry, this is something else entirely." Sarah grabbed for the phone, but I held it away from her. "What do you want, Dave? What's it going to take to fix this?" "Fix this? You think this can be fixed? You slept with my wife, John. You looked me in the eye every day and pretended to be my friend while you were planning your next chance to stick your Johnson in my wife. You think there's a Hallmark card for that?" "Dave, please. Here's what's going to happen, John. You and my wife deserve each other. But you're not going to live happily ever after. I'm going to make sure of that." I hung up and turned back to Sarah. She was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. "You need to leave," I said. "Pack your things and get out of my house." "This is my house too, Dave. I have rights." "Rights?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the screen. "See this? It's the app for our joint checking account, the one that had $43,000 in it yesterday. Want to guess how much is in it now? Her face went white. You can't do that. That's my money too. Was your money. Now it's in an account with only my name on it. Amazing how fast you can move money online these days. I'll call the police. I'll call my lawyer. You can't just steal our money. Call whoever you want, but you better do it from somewhere else because you've got 10 minutes to pack a bag and get out of my house. My house too. Not for long. See, here's the thing about adultery, Sarah. It tends to complicate divorce proceedings, especially when there's evidence. Lots and lots of evidence. I scrolled through my phone and showed her Amanda's Facebook post. The comment count was up to 847. The whole town knows what you are now. Your law firm will know by Monday. Your clients will know by Tuesday. How's that going to affect your career, counselor? She was crying harder now, but I felt nothing. Less than nothing. If anything, her tears just proved how selfish she was. She wasn't crying because she'd hurt me. She was crying because she'd been caught. Dave, please. We can work through this. We can go to counseling. We can't do anything. There is no we. There's you, there's me, and there's a divorce lawyer who's going to make sure you get exactly what you deserve. She stood there for another minute, probably hoping I'd change my mind. When it became clear that wasn't happening, she went upstairs to pack. I could hear her moving around up there, opening drawers, slamming doors. My daughter Katie called while Sarah was packing. Dad, what's going on? My friends are saying Mom cheated on you with Uncle John? Katie was 17, a senior in high school. She'd called John Uncle since she was little. This was going to destroy her. Your mother made some bad choices, sweetheart. We're getting divorced. But Dad, Katie, I need you to listen to me. Your mother is going to try to make this my fault. She's going to say I overreacted, that I'm being cruel. Don't believe her. She chose to do this. She chose to destroy our family. Remember that? Where is she going to live? That's not my problem anymore. Sarah came downstairs with 2 suitcases and her laptop bag. She'd changed clothes and tried to fix her makeup, but she still looked like what she was, a woman whose world had just collapsed. This isn't over, Dave. I'm going to fight you on everything. The house, the business, custody of Katie. Good luck with that. Hard to claim you deserve custody when the whole town knows you're an adulteress. But please fight me. Give me more opportunities to air your dirty laundry in court. She headed for the door, then stopped. You used to love me. I used to love a woman named Sarah Morrison. That woman died last night. I don't know who you are. After she left, I sat in my kitchen drinking coffee and watching the Facebook drama unfold. Amanda had posted updates throughout the night, photos of John's destroyed car, screenshots of his pathetic attempts to apologize, a video of him trying to pick up his scattered clothes while neighbors watched from their windows. The comments were brutal. Our small town loved its gossip, and this was the juiciest scandal in years. Sarah's reputation was being shredded in real time, and John wasn't faring much better. But this was just the beginning. I had plans for both of them, plans that would make this morning's humiliation look like a gentle warm-up. My phone rang. It was my business partner, Mike. Dave, you need to get down to the shop. We've got problems. The problems at Morrison's Auto Repair were exactly what I'd expected. By the time I arrived at 9 a.m., there were already 3 cancellations on the answering machine. Mrs. Patterson didn't want her Buick worked on by that poor man whose wife ran around on him. The Hendersons thought it would be awkward to bring their car in during this difficult time. Mike was waiting for me with coffee and a grim expression. He'd been my business partner for 8 years, and I'd never seen him look this worried. How bad is it? I asked. Bad. Facebook's blowing up with this thing. Half the town's taking sides, and the other half just wants to stay out of it. Nobody wants to be associated with drama. Drama I didn't create. I know that, you know that, but these people don't care who started it. They just see mess and want to avoid it. He was right, of course. Small-town politics were brutal. You could survive almost anything except being the center of gossip, and right now, I was the most talked-about man in 3 counties. We'll weather it, I said. People need their cars fixed. They'll come back. Mike didn't look convinced, but he nodded anyway. We built this business from nothing, and I wasn't going to let Sarah and John destroy it along with everything else. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Heard about your situation. If you want to talk, I'm at the Rusty Anchor. Lisa Chen, John's biggest business rival and the owner of Chen Hardware across town. We'd met a few times at Chamber of Commerce meetings, but I wouldn't call us friends. More like friendly acquaintances. But right now, I needed all the friends I could get. The Rusty Anchor sat on the wrong side of town, the kind of place where day shift factory workers went to forget their troubles and night shift workers went to prepare for them. Dark wood, dim lighting, and a bartender who'd seen everything twice. Lisa was sitting in a corner booth, nursing a beer despite the early hour. She was in her 40s, Asian American, with a kind of sharp intelligence that made her a formidable businesswoman. Her hardware store had been eating into John's profits for years. "Dave Morrison," she said as I approached. "You look like heck." "Feel like it too. Thanks for reaching out." I ordered a beer and sat across from her. The bar was nearly empty, just us, the bartender, and an old-timer who looked like he'd been there since the Carter administration. "So," Lisa said, "quite a night you had." You could say that. John's always been an arrogant prick, but I never figured him for stupid. Screwing his best friend's wife? That's next-level stupid. "Yeah, well, apparently, I don't know John as well as I thought." Lisa leaned forward, her expression serious. "What if I told you there's more you don't know? About John? About his business? About why he's been so desperate lately?" "I'd say I'm listening." She pulled out her phone and showed me a photo. It was a financial document, a loan application from First National Bank. "John's been borrowing money, lots of money. His store's in trouble, has been for months. He's leveraged to the eyeballs, and the bank's getting nervous." I studied the document. The numbers were staggering. John owed nearly $500,000, and his store's revenue was down 30% from last year. "How did you get this?" "I have friends at the bank. They're worried about John's ability to repay. Apparently, he's been using some creative accounting to make his numbers look better than they are." "Creative how?" "The kind that might interest the IRS or the state attorney general." I felt a cold smile spreading across my face. John wasn't just a cheating bastard. He was a desperate cheating bastard. Desperate men made mistakes. Big mistakes. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because John's been bad for business in this town. He undercuts prices, spreads rumors about competitors, treats his employees like garbage. If he goes down, everyone benefits." "Everyone including you." "Especially me. But that doesn't make the information less valuable." She was right. This was gold. Pure 24-karat revenge gold. What do you want in return? Your business. When John's store closes, and it will close, you're going to need a new place to buy parts. I want Morrison's Auto Repair as a customer. It was a fair deal. More than fair, considering what she was offering. "Deal," I said, and we shook hands. Lisa smiled. "There's one more thing you should know. John's not just borrowing from the bank. He's been getting signature loans, using other people as co-signers, people who might not know they're on the hook for his debts." "Like who?" "Like your wife." The beer in my mouth suddenly tasted like acid. "What?" "Sarah co-signed for a $50,000 loan 6 months ago. If John defaults, she's responsible for every penny." The pieces clicked into place. Sarah had been pushing me to expand the business, to take out loans for new equipment. She'd been unusually interested in our financial situation, asking questions about assets and income. I'd thought she was just being supportive, but she'd been planning to leave me, planning to help John, planning to steal everything I'd worked for. "You're sure about this?" "Positive. I can get you copies of the paperwork if you want." "I want." Lisa finished her beer and stood up. "John's going to come at you hard, Dave. He's desperate, and desperate men do stupid things. Watch your back." After she left, I sat in the bar for another hour, processing what I'd learned. Sarah hadn't just cheated on me, she'd betrayed me financially. She'd put our assets at risk to help her lover, and she'd done it all behind my back. The old Dave would have been hurt. The old Dave would have been devastated by the depth of her deception. The new Dave was just angry. Coldly, calculatingly angry. I pulled out my phone and called my lawyer, Tom Bradley. Tom had handled my business incorporation and a few minor legal issues over the years. He was about to get a lot busier. "Tom, it's Dave Morrison. I need to see you today. I'm getting divorced, and it's going to be ugly." "Jesus, Dave. I heard about the Facebook thing. Sarah really cheated with John?" "Among other things." "Can you see me at 3? I'll make time. And Dave, don't sign anything, don't agree to anything, and don't let Sarah back in the house. This is war now." "War." I liked the sound of that. Tom Bradley's law office occupied the second floor of a converted Victorian house downtown. He specialized in small business law and domestic relations, which was lawyer speak for helping people destroy each other legally. I'd brought everything: bank statements, business records, copies of the Facebook posts, and the financial information Lisa had given me. Tom spread it all across his conference table like a general planning a campaign. "This is good," he said, studying Sarah's signature on John's loan documents. "Very good. She put your assets at risk without your knowledge or consent. In a community property state, that's a big problem for her." "How big?" "Big enough that she might end up owing you money instead of the other way around, especially if John defaults on these loans." "What are the chances of that happening?" Tom smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "From what you've shown me, pretty good. John's losing money fast, and his reputation just took a nuclear hit. Banks don't like lending to people who are front-page news for adultery." "What's our next move?" "We file for divorce immediately, citing adultery and financial infidelity. We freeze all joint accounts, put a hold on any shared assets, and make sure Sarah can't do any more damage." "She's going to fight this." "Let her. She's the one who cheated. She's the one who signed illegal loan documents. She's the one whose dirty laundry is all over social media. Any judge in this county is going to take one look at this case and throw the book at her." I left Tom's office feeling better than I had since this whole mess started. For the first time in 18 hours, I had a plan. More than that, I had tools. But as I walked to my truck, I saw John waiting for me. He was leaning against his damaged BMW, looking like a man who hadn't slept in a week. Good. Insomnia looked good on him, too. "Dave, we need to talk." "No, we don't." I tried to walk past him, but he stepped into my path. Big mistake. I'd been lifting weights and working with my hands for 22 years. John sold hardware and played golf. If he wanted to make this physical, I was happy to accommodate him. "Move, John." "Not until you listen to me. This whole thing has gotten out of hand. Amanda's talking about taking the kids and moving to her sister's place in California. Sarah's career is ruined. Enough people have been hurt." "Enough people?" I laughed, and the sound made him flinch. "You mean enough of the right people? Because you sure as heck weren't worried about hurting people when you were sleeping with my wife." "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." "How was it supposed to happen, John? Were you planning to tell me? Were you going to ask my permission? Or were you just going to keep screwing her behind my back until one of you got bored?" He had the decency to look ashamed, but it was too little. Too late. "Dave, I know you hate me right now." "Hate you?" I stepped closer, close enough that he had to look up to meet my eyes. "John, hate is what you feel for someone who cuts you off in traffic. Hate is what you feel for politicians and tax collectors. This isn't hate. This is something much worse." "What do you want? Money? I can pay you." "With what? Your business is failing, you're leveraged up to your eyeballs, and now everyone in town knows you're a cheating piece of crap. What exactly are you going to pay me with?" His face went white. He hadn't expected me to know about his financial problems. "That's right, John. I know about the loans. I know about the creative accounting. I know about the $50,000 my wife co-signed for without telling me. I know everything. Dave, please, here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay away from me, stay away from my business, and stay away from my family. You're going to live with the consequences of your choices just like the rest of us. And when your little house of cards comes tumbling down, and it will come down, I'm going to be there to watch it happen." I pushed past him and got in my truck. Through the windshield, I could see him standing there, looking lost and defeated. It was a good look for him. My phone rang as I drove home. "Katie." "Dad, Mom called. She's staying at Grandma's trailer. She wants me to come live with her." Sarah's mother lived in a double-wide trailer on the outskirts of town. It was clean and well-maintained, but it wasn't exactly the lifestyle Sarah was accustomed to. The woman who'd been living in our 4-bedroom house with the 2-car garage was now sleeping on a fold-out couch in a trailer park. "What did you tell her?" "That I need to think about it." "Dad, what really happened? Mom says you're being cruel, that you won't even talk to her about working things out. Katie, your mother cheated on me with John. She's been lying to both of us for months, maybe longer. There's nothing to work out." "But people make mistakes." "This wasn't a mistake, sweetheart. Mistakes are accidents. This was a choice. She chose to betray our family. She chose to destroy our marriage. She chose to humiliate me in front of the entire town. Those weren't mistakes. They were decisions." Katie was quiet for a long moment. "Are you going to be okay, Dad?" "I'm going to be better than okay. I'm going to be free." That evening, I drove past John's house. The broken glass had been cleaned up, but his car still looked like it had been through a war zone. Amanda's car was gone, probably packed up and heading to California, just like John had said. I felt a momentary pang of sympathy for her. She was innocent in all this, just another casualty of John and Sarah's selfishness. But the feeling passed quickly. Innocent people got hurt when selfish people made selfish choices. That was just how the world worked. My phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. "Heard John tried to talk to you today. How did that go?" I typed back. "About as well as you'd expect. Any word on those loan documents?" "Tomorrow. My friend at the bank is making copies. You're going to love what you see." I was already loving it. For the first time since this nightmare began, I was looking forward to tomorrow. Lisa's friend at the bank was thorough. The manila envelope she handed me contained copies of every document John had signed in the past year, including the ones with Sarah's forged signature. That's right, forged. Sarah's signature on the $50,000 loan didn't match her signature on any of our joint accounts. John had been desperate enough to commit fraud and stupid enough to do it badly. "Your wife never signed this," Lisa said, pointing to the discrepancy. "Look at the loop on the S. It's completely different from her real signature. John did this himself." "Are you sure?" "Positive. I had a handwriting expert look at it. John forged your wife's signature to get the loan, then probably told her about it later to get her cooperation. This was even better than I'd hoped. Not only was Sarah not responsible for the loan, but John had committed a felony. Bank fraud was a federal crime, punishable by up to 30 years in prison. What do I do with this? That depends. How badly do you want to hurt him? The answer was simple. Very badly. I took the documents to Tom Bradley, who nearly fell out of his chair when he saw them. "This is bank fraud," he said. "Felony bank fraud. If you turn this over to the FBI, John's going to prison. What's the downside? There isn't one. John committed a crime and you have proof. The only question is whether you want to destroy him completely or just mostly." "Completely," Tom grinned. "I was hoping you'd say that." We spent the next hour planning John's destruction. Tom would contact the FBI's white-collar crime division, while I would make sure the information found its way to John's creditors and business partners. By the end of the week, John would be facing federal charges and bankruptcy simultaneously. But I wasn't done with Sarah either. That evening, I drove to the trailer park where she was staying. The Sunset Manor mobile home community was exactly as depressing as it sounded. Rows of aging trailers, rusted cars, and broken dreams. Sarah's BMW looked as out of place as a tuxedo at a tractor pull. I found her sitting on the tiny front porch of her mother's trailer, smoking a cigarette. I'd never seen her smoke before, but then again, there were a lot of things about my wife I'd apparently never known. "Hello, Sarah." She looked up, and I was shocked by how much she'd aged in just 3 days. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes wrinkled, and her eyes had the hollow look of someone who'd lost everything. "Dave, what do you want?" "To give you some good news. You're not responsible for John's loan after all." She blinked, confused. "What?" I handed her copies of the documents Lisa had given me. "John forged your signature. You never actually co-signed for anything. Congratulations. You're not going to owe $50,000 when he defaults." She studied the papers, and I watched understanding dawn on her face. "He forged my signature?" "Yep, which means he committed bank fraud. Federal bank fraud. He's looking at decades in prison." "You're lying." "Am I? Call the bank tomorrow. Ask them to verify your signature on the loan documents. See what they tell you." She was crying now, but these weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of rage. John hadn't just used her. He'd betrayed her too. "I trusted him," she whispered. "Yeah, well, trust is a funny thing. Hard to earn, easy to lose, impossible to get back. You should know something about that." I turned to leave, then stopped. "Oh, one more thing. The FBI will probably want to talk to you about this. You might want to get a lawyer. A good one." As I walked back to my truck, I could hear her sobbing. The sound should have made me feel guilty, but it didn't. She'd made her choices, and now she was living with the consequences, just like the rest of us. The next morning brought more good news. Mike called to tell me that 3 new customers had scheduled appointments, all of them people who'd heard about my situation and wanted to show support. "Apparently," Mike said, "there are a lot of people in this town who never liked John anyway. They think you got a raw deal, and they want to help." It was funny how public opinion worked. 3 days ago, I'd been the subject of pity and gossip. Now I was the wronged husband, the victim of a cheating wife and a fraudulent best friend. People loved a good underdog story, and I was definitely the underdog. But not for long. Tom called at noon with an update. The FBI's interested, very interested. They're opening an investigation into John's business practices, and they want to interview you tomorrow. What should I tell them? The truth. Everything you know about John's finances, his relationship with your wife, and the forged documents. They're going to nail him to the wall. What about Sarah? That's up to her. If she cooperates with the investigation, she'll probably be fine. If she tries to protect John, she could end up as an accessory. I almost hoped she'd try to protect him. It would serve her right. That afternoon, I decided to pay John a visit at his store. It was time for a final conversation, man-to-man. Morrison Hardware occupied a prime corner lot downtown with big windows and a red brick facade. John had always been proud of the place, and I could see why. It looked successful, prosperous, permanent. Too bad appearances were deceiving. I found John in the back office, hunched over a computer, looking like a man trying to solve an impossible puzzle, which, in a way, he was. "Hello, John." He looked up, and I saw fear in his eyes. Good. Fear looked good on him, too. "Dave, what are you doing here? Thought you'd want to know that the FBI is going to be calling you. Something about forged loan documents?" All the color drained from his face. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you do. You forged Sarah's signature on that $50,000 loan. Pretty stupid, really. Banks keep copies of everything, and handwriting experts can spot a fake signature from a mile away." He slumped in his chair like a deflated balloon. "How did you find out? Does it matter? The point is, I know, the FBI knows, the bank knows. Pretty soon everyone's going to know." "Dave, please, I can explain." "Explain what?" "How you committed federal bank fraud. How you betrayed your wife, your best friend, and your business partners all at the same time. I'm all ears, John. This should be good." He was crying now, actually crying. Big, blubbering sobs that shook his whole body. It was pathetic and satisfying at the same time. "I was desperate," he said between sobs. "The business was failing. I needed money to keep the doors open. I thought I could pay it back before anyone noticed." "So you decided to drag Sarah into it. She wanted to help. She said she'd co-sign, but then she changed her mind. I'd already told the bank she was on board. I panicked. So you forged her signature." "I was going to tell her. I was going to make it right." "By sleeping with her? That was your plan, to make it right?" He looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. "That just happened. We were spending time together, working on the loan stuff, and one thing led to another." "One thing led to another." I laughed, and the sound echoed off the office walls. 22 years of marriage, and it all comes down to one thing led to another. "Dave, I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen." "But it did happen, and now you're going to pay for it." I stood up and headed for the door, then stopped. "Oh, one more thing. When you go to prison, and you are going to prison, I want you to remember something. Every single day you're in there, remember that this is what happens when you betray the people who trust you. Remember that this is what happens when you think you're smarter than everyone else. And remember that I'm the one who put you there." I left him sobbing in his office and walked out into the afternoon sunshine. It was a beautiful day, clear skies, warm breeze, the kind of day that made you glad to be alive. For the first time in a week, I felt genuinely happy. 6 weeks later, John's world had completely collapsed. The FBI investigation had uncovered not just the forged loan documents, but a pattern of financial fraud going back 3 years. He'd been cooking his books, inflating his assets, and lying to creditors on a massive scale. The local newspaper ran the story on the front page. "Local business owner arrested for federal bank fraud." The article included a photo of John being led away in handcuffs, his face hidden behind his hands. His store was closed, his assets frozen, his reputation destroyed. Amanda had filed for divorce and moved to California with their kids. Sarah had testified against him in exchange for immunity, confirming that he'd forged her signature and lied about his financial situation. But I wasn't satisfied, not yet. Lisa called me on a Thursday morning with interesting news. John's trying to reopen. He's got some investor from out of state, thinks he can start fresh with a new store. Where? That empty warehouse on Industrial Drive? He's planning a grand reopening next month. The warehouse was perfect. Isolated, surrounded by empty lots, no neighbors to worry about. If someone wanted to make a statement, it would be the ideal location. Thanks for the heads up. Dave, whatever you're thinking, be careful. John's got nothing left to lose now. That makes him dangerous. She was right, but I was past caring about danger. John had destroyed my marriage, humiliated me in front of the entire town, and tried to steal my money. If he thought he could just start over like nothing had happened, he was about to learn otherwise. I spent the next 2 weeks planning. I drove by the warehouse every day, noting the security measures, minimal, the access points, multiple, and the surrounding area, deserted. John was working there most nights, trying to get the place ready for his grand reopening. Perfect. On a rainy Thursday night, I put my plan into action. I waited until John's car was the only one in the parking lot, then drove around to the back of the building. The rear entrance was unlocked. John had always been careless about security. I found him in what would have been the main showroom, surrounded by boxes and half-assembled shelving units. He looked older, thinner, beaten down by the events of the past 2 months. Prison was going to be hard on him. "Hello, John." He spun around, knocking over a box of merchandise. "Dave, Jesus, you scared me. What are you doing here?" "Thought I'd see how the new business was coming along. Looks like you're making progress." "Look, if you're here to gloat..." "Gloat? Why would I gloat? You're a convicted felon facing federal prison time, your wife left you, your kids won't speak to you, and you're trying to rebuild your life in a warehouse that smells like dead fish. What's to gloat about?" He straightened up, trying to recover some dignity. "I'm not giving up, Dave. I made mistakes, but I'm going to make things right." "Make things right? How exactly are you going to do that? You can't take back what you did with my wife. You can't undo the lies. You can't give me back the 20 years of friendship you threw away. I can try to rebuild. I can try to be a better person. No, John, you can't. Because I'm not going to let you." I pulled out a can of spray paint and started writing on his freshly painted wall. "John Peterson is a cheating fraud." "Dave, stop. You can't do this." "Can't I?" I moved to another wall and continued writing. "Don't trust this man with your money or your wife." John lunged at me, trying to grab the spray can. I sidestepped easily and shoved him into a stack of boxes. He went down hard, merchandise scattering across the floor. "Stay down, John. This'll go easier if you just stay down." I continued my work, spray painting every wall, every window, every surface I could reach. By the time I was finished, John's new store looked like a crime scene. "You're insane," John said from the floor. "I'm calling the police." "Go ahead. Tell them how the man whose wife you slept with came to your store and spray painted some walls. I'm sure they'll be very sympathetic." I pulled out my phone and started taking pictures, documenting my handiwork. John's face was in several of the shots, tears streaming down his cheeks as he surveyed the destruction. "Why?" he whispered. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you haven't suffered enough. Because you think you can just start over and pretend the past doesn't matter. Because you need to understand that actions have consequences." I walked over to where he was sitting and crouched down next to him. "Here's what's going to happen, John. Every time you try to rebuild, I'm going to be there to tear it down. Every time you think you've found a fresh start, I'm going to remind people who you really are. You're going to spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder, wondering when I'm going to show up next. That's harassment. That's stalking. Prove it. I'm just a concerned citizen making sure the community knows about your criminal history. It's all public record." I stood up and headed for the door, then stopped. "Oh, one more thing. Sarah sends her regards. She wanted me to tell you that testifying against you was the easiest decision she ever made. Apparently, finding out you forged her signature was quite the wake-up call." I left him there, sitting in the ruins of his latest failure, and drove home through the rain. It was 2 a.m. and the streets were empty, except for the occasional police car and late-night drunk. My phone rang as I pulled into my driveway. It was Sarah. "Dave, the police just called. They said John reported vandalism at his new store. They want to talk to you." "Let them talk. I was home all evening working on my truck. Mike can vouch for me." "Dave, please tell me you didn't..." "Didn't what, Sarah? Didn't give your boyfriend a taste of his own medicine? Didn't show him what it feels like to have someone destroy something you care about?" "He's not my boyfriend. We're not together anymore. I told you, I testified against him. Only because you had to. Only because you got caught." She was quiet for a long moment. "What do you want from me, Dave? What do I have to do to make this stop?" "Nothing. There's nothing you can do. You made your choice and now you get to live with it. Forever." I hung up and went inside. The house felt different now, cleaner somehow, lighter. All of Sarah's things were gone, her presence erased. her betrayal relegated to memory. The next morning, the local news ran a story about the vandalism at John's warehouse. The reporter interviewed several local residents, all of whom expressed sympathy for the victims of John Peterson's fraud. Nobody seemed particularly upset that his new store had been vandalized. Tom Bradley called around noon. "The police want to talk to you about last night." "What should I tell them?" "The truth. You were home all evening. Mike saw you working on your truck. You have no idea who might have vandalized John's store, but you're not surprised it happened." "That's not exactly the truth." "It's close enough, Dave. You need to be careful. John's desperate, and desperate men do stupid things." "But John wasn't the one doing stupid things anymore. That was me, and I was enjoying every minute of it." 2 days later, I got a call from Lisa. "John's giving up on the warehouse. He's putting everything in storage and leaving town." "Where's he going?" "Nobody knows. He just told his lawyer he was starting over somewhere else." I felt a moment of disappointment. I'd been looking forward to more opportunities to remind John of his mistakes, but then I realized it didn't matter. He was broken, defeated, driven out of town like the criminal he was. I'd won. Sarah called that evening to tell me John was gone. "He left this morning. Didn't tell anyone where he was going." "Good. Maybe now this town can get back to normal." "Dave, we need to talk. About us? About the divorce? About moving forward?" "There is no us, Sarah. There's you, there's me, and there's a divorce decree that says we don't have to pretend to care about each other anymore." "But we have Katie to think about. Katie's 18 next month. She can make her own decisions about who she wants in her life." "Dave, please. I know I hurt you. I know I made terrible mistakes, but we had 22 good years together. That has to count for something." "It counted for everything, right up until you decided it counted for nothing." I hung up and poured myself a beer. Through the kitchen window, I could see my neighbor mowing his lawn, his wife working in her garden, their kids playing in the yard, normal people living normal lives untouched by betrayal and revenge. I envied them, but only a little. They'd never experienced the pure satisfaction of total victory over their enemies. They'd never felt the rush of watching their betrayers suffer the consequences of their actions. They'd never been tested the way I'd been tested, and they'd never discovered what they were truly capable of when pushed to their limits. 3 months later, I was sitting in my lawyer's office, signing the final divorce papers. Sarah wasn't there. She'd moved to the state capital, taken a job with a big firm, started over in a place where nobody knew her story. "That's it," Tom said, stamping the final page. "You're officially divorced." "How did I do?" "Better than I expected. You got the house, the business, most of the assets. Sarah got her freedom and a clean slate. All things considered, I'd say you won. I'd more than won. I'd achieved something rare in divorce proceedings. Total victory. Sarah left with nothing but her clothes and her law degree while I kept everything I'd worked for. But the real victory wasn't financial. The real victory was knowing that both Sarah and John would spend the rest of their lives remembering what happened when they betrayed me. Every time Sarah looked in the mirror, she'd remember the woman who threw away a good marriage for a cheap affair. Every time John tried to build something new, he'd remember the man who destroyed it all with his greed and lust. They'd remember, and they'd suffer, and I'd be free. That evening, I drove to the airport. My ticket to Bangkok was in my jacket pocket, along with a passport and enough cash to start over anywhere I wanted. The business was in Mike's hands now. He'd bought me out for a fair price, and Morrison's auto repair would continue without Morrison. As the plane lifted off, I looked down at the lights of my hometown growing smaller and smaller below. Somewhere down there, Sarah was probably sitting in her apartment, wondering what might have been. Somewhere else, John was probably still running, still looking over his shoulder, still waiting for me to appear and remind him of his sins. But I was done with both of them. I'd gotten my revenge, proven my point, and won my war. Now it was time for the next chapter, whatever that might be. The flight attendant brought me a whiskey, and I raised it in a toast to the darkness outside the window. "To new beginnings," I said quietly, "and to the ashes of old betrayals." Thailand was waiting, warm and bright and full of possibilities. Behind me, in a small Midwestern town, the ruins of 2 lives served as monuments to a simple truth. Betrayal has consequences, and some men are willing to enforce those consequences, no matter what the cost. I'd been one of those men, and I'd never felt more free.